Oh, that sounds bad. We're going to have to fix that at some point. Click. Perfect. Are you looking to buy an EV such as this i3 here in 2023? If you are, then you've come to the right place. Because in this video, I'm going to go over 3 topics that, in my opinion, that EV ownership requires some extra forward thinking that a traditional ICE vehicle really doesn't matter. Those 3 topics are the car itself, at home, and out in the wild. Let's get started. So you want to buy an EV here in 2023. The first topic I'm going to go over is the actual EV itself. And that is because not all EVs are the same. Even from the same manufacturer, just different models, the EVs are going to vary wildly. So let's start with 2 differentiating factors for EVs. One is battery size, and the second one is battery architecture. Both of those items affect the estimated range an EV can go, and generally how fast you can charge that EV over level 1, level 2, or level 3 charging. On the battery size front, it may or may not be listed on the Monroney sticker. You really might have to dive deep into a vehicle's technical information to find out the actual battery size. Thus, in their marketing material for EVs, you might just see a standard range or you might see extended range. They're not really going to say, oh, it's this size or that size. The battery size generally is listed in kilowatt hours, unless you have an old BMW like this i3, which lists it not in kilowatt hours, but in ampere hours. So this is a 60 ampere BMW i3, which is about 21 kilowatt hours, I do believe. Where the 2021 i3 has a 120 ampere hour battery pack. Twice the size of this one. The 2 architectures for the battery pack are 400 volt and 800 volt. The 400 volt is the standard architecture that most EVs have. The 800 volt architecture is a newer technology that some newer EVs have. So this i3, the F-150 Lightning, the Bolt, Nissan Leaf, I think I said the Mach-E, those are all going to be 400 volt architectures. 800 volt architecture is going to be the newer EVs like a Kia EV6, a Porsche Taycan, and that architecture plays into your charging. So the standard connector to charge an EV is going to be a J1772 connector, and it's good for level 1, 120 volt charging, or level 2, 2-phase, 240 volt charging. There is a third connector, DC fast charge, that directly charges the battery. It does the AC to DC conversion outside of the vehicle and directly charges the battery. The rate that it does that, though, can depend on the architecture. The i3, for instance, only does 50 kilowatts max, where a Mach-E or a Lightning can do 150. That DC fast charging, though, may or may not be on your EV. It may come as a standard, or it may come as an option. The i3, it was an option. Thus, if you're buying a used EV, I would probably recommend, or I would highly recommend, that you look for ones that have DC fast charging as an option or as a feature if you're buying the EV used. If you're buying it new, I would make sure to check that box if it's an option. It really helps when you're driving out in the wild. However, not all EVs have the same fast charging connector. Most will have a CCS combo, but a few others, like the Mitsubishi Outlander and the Nissan Leaf, will have a CHAdeMO fast charging connector. Leading into the charging of the EVs themselves. All EVs have an onboard charger, AC to DC, to charge the battery. It's those chargers that are going to vary wildly from brand to brand, model to model. Example, this i3 is a 2016 i3. It has a 7.7 kilowatt onboard AC to DC converter. The Mach-E from Ford has an 11 kilowatt AC to DC converter. That's the onboard charger. The F-150 Lightning has two different versions based on the battery configuration, whether it's a standard range or it's an extended range. The Nissan Leaf that I mentioned earlier with the CHAdeMO fast charging connection has a paltry 6 kilowatt onboard AC to DC converter. Ouch. That means that Leaf charges slower than this i3. Something that you have to, these are just some items that you have to be probably conscientious of if you're buying an EV. And that's for AC to DC charging, which is level 1 and level 2. Like right now, I'm doing level 2. So my car is, I just drove home from work. She's over half dead because I had the heater on too. She's pulling 32 amps, 7.7 kilowatts. And she'll be pulling that all the way until she's full because her charging rate isn't going to change as she hits over 80%. More on that later. It's also worth pointing out at this point as well that not only do all EVs have different architectures, different battery sizes, charging ports are going to be wildly different places. The i3 is right here, rear right side. They could be on the left side. The Mach-E and the F-150 Lightning have them on the driver left or the left front side of the vehicle, where the Porsche Taycan has them on both the front and left side of the vehicle with DC fast charge only on the left side, and the Nissan Leaf has it right up front. All of that plays into later in the video where you want to pay attention to how you approach a public charging station. One other item to consider when buying an EV on the vehicle front is the efficiency of the vehicle. This is getting hot for some reason. On the Moroni sticker, they're going to have listed its city, its highway, and its combined MPGe rating. MPG is not miles per gallon electric, it's miles per gallon equivalent. And that equivalent is to the EPA. 1 gallon of gas has 33.7 kilowatt hours of electricity. So how far can an EV go on 33.7 kilowatt hours of electricity? That would be its MPGe rating. So if an EV can go 100 miles on 33.7 kilowatt hours of electricity, its MPGe rating would be 100. On screen right here, I have a 2017 BMW i3 range extender. This door shouldn't be moving that way, it's kind of scary. Moroni sticker. I couldn't find a 2016. Down here, circled in green, you'll see its MPGe is 111, and it takes 30 kilowatt hours of electricity to do 100 miles, which is why the number is 111. It's a bigger number. Now, also, it is a range extender, so you have your MPG as well. For comparison, I have a 2021 Mach-E Moroni sticker right here. Now, you notice here, Ford did theirs differently. You have both city and highway. Your city will always be higher than your highway, and then you have your MPGe combined. So this Mach-E is 97, but notice right here, it's 35 kilowatt hours of electricity to do 100 miles, which explains, in a way, why this number is less than 100. Now, this fuel cost that you see right here, that is the estimate of how much electricity, how much you would pay in electricity over a year at a rate of 13 cents per kilowatt hour, but that is going to vary based on your location. I wonder what BMW says. Oh, they're saying 650. Interesting. You know, between 97 and 111, you're what, 11 and 3, 14 miles of range difference? That's pretty close to me. Now, a few of the things to note is, how big is this battery pack? Oh, it tells you right here, it will take 10.9, 11 hours to charge this Mach-E at 240 volts. 11 hours to charge? How big's this battery? Holy crap, right there, 88 kilowatt hours. That's a big battery pack. Does it tell me charging speed and stuff too? I wonder. I'm curious. I've never seen a Monroney sticker for a new EV yet. Not that I could afford one. Do you see how much this EV cost? This is 2021. And this is being filmed at 23. Let's see. What do we have? So it does come, a Mach-E does come with a level 1 and level 2 EVSE. That's interesting. It does say it's DC charge capable, and it has a CCS combo connector. Doesn't tell you the speed of charging though. That's interesting. Yeah, so is this. That battery was $5,000. Holy crap. I wonder, what does BMWs look like? I never really paid attention. So what does BMW tell me? Do we have functional category up here in this sticker? Performance and efficiency. That's a 170 horsepower generator? Holy crap. I didn't know that. Oh, this is a 33 kilowatt hour battery pack. Oh, and BMW, well, at least on this 2017 Monroney sticker, they tell you the level 1 charging speed, the EVSE it comes with, 1.4 kilowatts. They tell you the speed, the max speed of AC to DC conversion of level 2, 7.4. And what are you chasing after? And it also says it's SAE DC capable fast charging, but doesn't tell you the speed. Now, my opinion, a 2017 i3 getting 111 mpge and a Mach-E getting 97 mpge, that's pretty damn good. If my dog doesn't jump that fence. Hey! Cosmo! 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 Time to charge. Oh, well, that doesn't sound very good. Click. Yes. You bought your EV. Now that you're home, there's 2 items at home that you need to take in consideration with your EV. 1 is charging, and 2 is the cost of charging. Charging your EV, you need an EVSE, like I have here, or like that one right there. All EVs will come with a level 1 EVSE. Level 1 is 12 amps, 120 volts, about 1.2 kilowatts max power. These EVSEs are very, very, very slow. How slow? This EVSE charging this i3's battery pack, it's about 18 kilowatts of usable capacity, from 6% to, oh my God, is that dirty? I need to give you a bath. Shiny object, from 6% to 100% will take 27 hours for this EVSE to charge this i3. Now, if you have newer EVs like an F-150 Lightning and you're charging its battery pack over level 1 EVSE, you're looking at like 65 plus hours of charging. Now, some newer EVs do come with a 120 and a 240 volt combo EVSE. In fact, if you buy an F-150 Lightning and you have the extended range option, then you get Ford's 80 amp EVSE included with the purchase of the truck. Thus, when you have an EV and you're charging at home, it's highly recommended to get a level 2 charger. Now, level 2 chargers are 208 volts to 240 volts, about 16 to 60 amps. When shopping for a level 2 EVSE, it can be kind of daunting. There are several different versions, models, options, smart and dumb. It can be overwhelming. So, in general, you want to match the power output of the EVSE with the maximum AC input of your EV. In my scenario, this outputs 7.7 kilowatts in the i3, and that's the max that the i3's AC to DC converter can take. Buying a higher output EVSE will not charge my EV any faster. I mentioned smart and dumb. This is a dumb one. All it does is plug it into an outlet and then it charges my EV. That's it. You can get smart ones that connect to your Wi-Fi and it connects to an app on your device that will give you a very granular breakdown on how much power your EV is using when it's charging and over X amount of time. Me personally, if I really want to know how much power it was using, I'd just get a power meter right here and I would measure the power that way. The connections. Hi, baby. What is in your hair? I love you too, but I don't need your slobber. Go. I know. The connecting portion of an EVSE, there's two different types. There's hardwired and there's a plug. I got the plug version to allow me flexibility. But if you don't want to do that, then you can get a hardwire version which doesn't have a plug. You have to hardwire it in. These do require their own dedicated breaker. If you don't want to go that route, there are devices on the market that allow you to take a dryer outlet and split it. So the device plugs into the dryer outlet and then you plug your dryer and your EVSE into that device. Is it cheap? Well, they're about a couple $100. So you have to weigh the pro of that device with how much is it going to cost to have a dedicated circuit installed. Another item to consider when you're buying your EV or when you're purchasing your EVSEs is some newer EVs are bidirectional EVs, which means they can take power from the grid, like my i3 is doing right here, but they can also deliver power back to the grid, your vehicle to grid or your vehicle to home. And to use that option on your EV, you might have to have a power inverter installed as part of your EVSE installation. Ford offers a home integration option for their F-150 Lightning. It's a separate option that costs nearly $4,000 plus the cost of installation. But it allows the F-150 Lightning to power your home if your power goes out. A lot of money to spend up front though. But that cost may be cheaper than a generator. Food for thought. But this, so far, has only been if you own your home. Like I do. What if you don't own your home? What if you rent? I can say personally, if I rented a home, there is no way in hell I am paying any kind of money to have an electrician come in, install a dedicated breaker to charge my EV. I don't think any renter would do that because if you up and move, you can't take that stuff with you. If you did do that, I would recommend getting an EVSE with a plug so you can take the EVSE with you and just leave the outlet behind. Thus, you may not buy an EV, but maybe you do. What if you live in an apartment and your apartment complex doesn't have a dryer outlet in it? What if you're stuck charging with level 1? As you can see, these cords are not very long. So if you are in the option, or your only option at the moment of time when you buy your EV is to charge over level 1, you might have to charge over an extension cord. And that begs the question is, can you charge an EV with an extension cord? And it's both yes and no. It's a no because, as mentioned, this EVSE pulls 12 volt amps. And if you're charging your EV for 24 hours or more, and you use one of those common construction grade extension cables, they're only rated for 13 amps. Sending 12 amps current through that cord over X amount of time, you could melt that cord, especially if it's a low grade quality cord. You don't want that. If you do have to charge over an extension cord, the yes portion of the answer, you want to invest in a commercial industrial grade 20 amp rated 12 or 10 gauge extension cord to charge your EV. This is the one that I got here. It's $150 for about 100 feet. And this is how I charged my i3 the first year that I owned it before I installed my level 2 in this video. I did not keep it wound up like this though. I made sure that I dissipated or unwound the whole cord in the yard area so that the cord could dissipate the heat that would be generated as current's flowing through it. And how I'd done it was I'd plugged into the kitchen and then I ran the cord outside and strung it all around my yard to dissipate the heat. And then I had this, and the connecting end, or this unit, was in the front. And then I fed the charging port, the adapter, to the back. And that's how I charged it. So if you are charging over an extension cord, make sure you have the proper gauge and a high amperage one, 20 amps, and unravel the whole cord. Don't keep it bound up like this, because this could be a fire hazard. You don't want that. And lastly of this section, I mentioned earlier there's two types of cost you want to be aware of. The first one is the actual cost of charging your EV. And that actual cost and how it's going to affect your utility bill is going to vary greatly on various factors, such as the time of day that you're charging, because these vehicles are high demand vehicles. You have to look at your rate, whether it's industrial or commercial rates, or if you have residential rates. Look at the area of the country that you're residing in, even here in America, and different parts of the state and different parts of the counties within that state and different municipalities. All of them could have an effect on the rate of electricity, the rate that you pay for your electricity. And all that can affect your utility bill. The other cost to consider is the cost of having an EVSE installed. Whether you have a dumb one like I do and the accompanying breaker that I have, or if you go with a whole home integration kit because you bought an EV that supports bidirectional power delivery. That cost, you don't want to forget that cost. In the next section, I will cover more non-routine items to consider before you buy an EV. On to the section of other points to consider of where the hell am I driving to? I didn't think that part through. Boy. Other points to consider. Other items to consider before you buy an EV. One, bigger batteries equal more range. Smaller batteries equal less range. Bigger batteries take more time to charge. Smaller batteries take less time to charge. So as a consumer, you probably want to find your happy medium of how long are you willing to wait for your EV to charge while you're out on a road trip versus, well, how much range do you really need? Keep in mind, the range that is displayed on the heads-up display is only an estimate. And everything you do in an EV is going to affect its range. The weather, the HVAC, spirited driving, all that's going to affect the EV range, as well as the age of the EV. As consumer devices age, specifically with cell phones, you know, or you would be aware that the battery ages and then doesn't hold a charge as long. Well, same idea in EVs. As the EV is going to age, that battery pack in it may not hold a charge as long, and your range won't be as long or large as it once was. Now, EVs have software that locks out the top and bottom portion of the battery pack to kind of mitigate that battery degradation over time, but at some point you're going to have to replace the battery pack. I mentioned weather can affect your range. If you've seen articles recently, and the end of 2022, Ford released an article about F-150 Lightning and don't use the HVAC, and other articles came out that generally in the winter, EVs lose about 20% of their range, and they do. When the battery pack is cold, you lose range. Battery packs like to be nice and warm. Right now, I got 94% range, or charge. I have 81 miles of range, but it's also 55 degrees outside. In the wintertime, when it's 20 degrees outside, I might have 55 miles of range. As we get closer to summer, I could have a full charge and get over 100 miles of range. The season affects your battery pack. It can affect your range. Thus, that's also why it's recommended to have a level 2 charger at home so that you can always precondition the battery pack before you start your trip. On the HVAC side, turning the HVAC on, I lose range immediately. I mentioned everything affects an EV. So right here, I'm at 100% fully charged. We're gonna power this on so that I'm on. I'm in park. I have 88 miles of range. We're gonna turn HVAC on. 76 degrees Fahrenheit, fan speed 1. We're down to 83 miles of range. But let's say it's cold outside. So I'm gonna turn this fan all the way up. I'm down to 80 miles of range, but I'm cold still. So I'm gonna turn this up to as high as it goes, 84 degrees apparently. I'm down to 63 miles of range. And I haven't even left my driveway. 20 plus miles of range gone just by turning the heater on. Now, right now it is June, so the battery pack is pretty warm. It's like 60 degrees outside. What about AC? So we're gonna turn the fan back on. We're gonna turn this down, let's say to 66. Turn our AC on. We're down to 76 miles of range. Turn the fan speed all the way up. We're down to 71 miles of range. And if I get colder, we're down to 62 miles of range with the coldest AC setting with max speed. And now I'm at 86 miles of range. I haven't even left my driveway yet. I mentioned previously in the video, you want to know your EV's charging speed, its fast charging speed, its charging port location. I really need to fix that. And its charging speed, along with the charging connector type. As there's two connector types, as I mentioned, there's CCS combo and there's CHAdeMO. Now, all that comes to play when you want to road trip your EV or travel long distances, because this is how you're going to do your travel time or charge your EV on the road. Now, I did a video here on how this charging infrastructure is fragmented or fractured, and it's frustrating to use. It can be frustrating to use. And how long you stay at a charging location is going to depend on 3 variables. The largest one being your patience. How long are you willing to sit and wait for this charger to charge your EV? 2, it's going to be the EV that you're driving, its fast charging speed, and what affects that, the battery condition, whether it's cold or if it's hot. And 3, the actual speed of the charger that you're sitting at. Because this is not standardized. None of these are. These are all bought by private corporations or individuals, and they're installed in various locations on the property. Like right here, this charger is installed between 2 parking spots, but they could put one right there and they could put one right here, or they could put 2 right here in the middle facing both spots. And that really kind of matters because your charging location, you want to put as close to the connector that you're using as possible. Like this i3 or my i3, I could back up more to use the CCS combo connector, but if I parked over there facing that window, the connector is going to be down here and that cable isn't going to reach. And these cables are very heavy. They're not malleable, and as you can see, they really don't rotate that well. So you want to put your location where you charge as close to the connector as possible. On the speed part, these may or may not be listed. Generally, ChargePoint's pretty good about listing their speed. This one is a 62 kilowatt unit, which is great, but the i3 only charges at 50 kilowatts when it's under 80% battery percentage as well, and under ideal conditions. I could be under 80% in the middle of the winter. If my battery pack is cold, I might be lucky to hit 45 kilowatts. Right now, we're in June. It's 60 plus degrees outside. I could hit 50 kilowatts. Generally, it's about 49, 48. However, right now, my battery percentage is at 88%. And although I could plug in this combo and charge my battery, that last 12% will take over an hour. So your fast charging is only up to 80% of battery, and after that the speed drops off. If you're CCS or if you're fast charging, if you're doing level 2 or level 1, it'll be the same speed consistently. So here, if I plug in right now, I'm probably going to do about 10 kilowatts of charging for the last 12%. Also, as you can see, this charger isn't covered. So these are generally exposed to the elements. There's no shade, there's no awning, no nothing. Thus, you're going to be out here in the rain, in the snow, fumbling with your phone to do the NFC, to activate the charger, to connect it to your car or to your EV to charge. Now, once it's connected and you're charging, you can't use the EV, which means you can't go into run state to activate your HVAC. So, if depending on the season that you're using one of these chargers or where you're at within the country, you might be sitting in a location like this in the middle of the winter and realize you have nowhere to really go other than to sit in your EV with it freezing outside. And you can't turn the HVAC on to heat the cabin up while you're charging because you can't use the EV. Now, the i3, I can go into accessory state and turn my heated seats on, but that only goes so far. If it's 20 degrees outside, Fahrenheit, I'm still cold. If you are going to road trip your EV or travel great distances, long distances, however you want to look at it, probably longer distance than city to city, you want to look for an app called PlugShare. And on there, you create a little profile. You can filter out all kinds of options. It will show you paid options like this and free ones like this Clipper Creek level 2 charger between a restaurant and a hotel. You can also filter it out by your connector type, CCS combo or CHAdeMO. You can also look for, some people might have their residence on there. You can go and look for a NEMA 1450 outlet. Generally, campgrounds is a good place to charge if you have a EVSE that you can take with you, like the one I had in the previous section at home. You can find a campground and charge on the road that way as well. PlugShare can show all that for you. I think I covered everything. Oh, the two connectors, CCS combo and CHAdeMO. There's only, most EVs, at least here in America, use CCS combo. If you're buying an EV used, this option, CCS fast charging, was an option on some EVs. Like the i3, when it first came out, it was an option to add that fast charging. I think the Bolt, when it first came out, CCS combo was an option. So if you're buying used, I'd highly recommend buying a used EV that has CCS combo if you plan to travel long distances. If not, it may not really matter. As for CHAdeMO, I think the Nissan Leaf uses CHAdeMO, and I think there's a Mitsubishi EV that uses CHAdeMO as well. And I do believe Tesla has a Tesla adapter to CHAdeMO adapter, allowing Tesla owners to use CHAdeMO, or this charging, would allow a Tesla owner to use this charger. I also say, or you've heard me say, this is a charger, not an EVSE. And that's because an EVSE, like the one I have at home, is only a power source, and the car does the DC or the AC to the DC conversion. With DC fast charging, this unit does the conversion here and directly charges the battery, bypassing the onboard charger, AC to DC converter. That's why these can pump out such high rates. Although finding a high rate charger, though, could be a challenge, especially since newer EVs top 100 kilowatts or more fast charging. Generally, these are going to be about 62 kilowatts. There are some Electrify Americas that state 350. I have never seen one actually achieve that, although I've never really seen Electrify America chargers actually working. The only ones near me are all the way up in Cleveland at a Sheet station, so I don't go up there and have to use them. Let me know in the comments on which network you guys use. ChargePoint, Electrify America, or EVgo. I think that about covers it here. We can move on to the next section, because in traditional videos of my format, I'm running out of daylight. Wait, before you go. One more item. These chargers can only charge one EV at a time. Even though there's two connectors, it's only one EV at a time, one account active at a time. So if you are in your EV and you are traveling across the country, across the state, road tripping, whatever it might be, you want to have these apps open and handy or readily available, so you can see if the charger that you want to get to is actually in use or not. Now, one cool thing about ChargePoint, well, with this model, is they have a indicator at the top and a actual LED screen. So if you are in visual proximity of the charger, like this one's right here, I can see it from the road, which is about 400 feet that way. I can see, especially at night, if it's in use or not before I waste time coming in here to see if it's in use. I mean, I could look on the app, but if I don't want to pull the app out because I'm driving and I'm waiting at the traffic light or whatever it may be, I can look and say, oh, okay, this is in use or this is not in use. Just keep that in mind as well. Let's get going because I'm running out of daylight. Fourth point to consider when buying an EV is the maintenance of said EV. While EVs are mechanically simpler than their traditional ICE counterparts, you don't have an engine, a transmission, oil, coolant, transmission fluid, pistons, rods, bearings, or overhead cams, journal bearings, anything like that, clutch packs. You don't have any of that in an EV. Thus, your repairs are going to be far less, but they could be more expensive. On the mechanical front, all you really have in an EV is your traditional items, wear items, your brakes, your tires, and your suspension. There's two other items that can be very, very, very expensive to repair. And that is going to be the electric motor, or in most cases, the high voltage battery pack. The electric motor may not need to be replaced. They're pretty much maintenance free. At least mine is so far. But the battery pack, on the other hand, that's going to need replacing. As I mentioned earlier, battery packs degrade over time. And over time, you're going to lose range. And there is no store that you can go to, no junkyard you can go to buy a battery pack and plug and play. If I put a new pack in this i3, I have to reprogram the computer to the new pack. And those battery packs are going to be very expensive. Example, using my i3 here, in 2020, I bought this for $15,000. It has an 8-cell battery pack, and each cell from BMW is $2.7 thousand US dollars. If I had to replace all 8 cells, a whole new battery pack, I'm looking at $21.6 thousand US dollars for a car that I paid $15,000 for. And to know or not if I need to replace that battery, I'd have to go to a BMW dealer that specializes with i3s or EVs to get a proper diagnosis. Or I'd have to find a local mechanic that has the software needed to address the diagnostics to talk to the software to see if I need a new battery pack or not. Something like a Mach-E, its battery pack is like $27,000, $28,000, enough for a new Maverick or a new Ranger. That being said, long-term thinking then, as your EV ages, if you decide to buy one and your EV ages, any damage to that battery pack might render your EV totaled. The insurance company may not pay the money to replace the battery pack. Just some food for thought. The fifth item of note is your registration. Here in Ohio, it cost me $200 on top of the plate fee to register my EV. In other states, such as Texas, it could run you $400 for the first year and $200 every year thereafter. So you want to check your local state registration fees and see how much it costs to register an EV. If you've made it this far in this probably very long video, welcome to the deep end. Let me know in the comments, welcome to the deep end. And by now, you probably have the opinion formed for or against buying an EV. And the point of this video was not to convince you for or against buying an EV. The point of the video is to highlight areas that EV ownership require extra thinking that a traditional, albeit extremely dirty, vehicle don't require. From the added additional cost at home to charge the EV to the replacement of the battery pack. At some point, I have to replace this battery pack. And that point, that cost might be more than the market value of this i3. To travel time. If I travel long distances in the i3, I have to go to PlugShare, plan out my route, see where there's chargers, and make sure I have an app to work with those chargers. And another annoying thing with those chargers is I've got 4 apps: ChargePoint, EVgo, Electrify America, and Green Dots or Green Lots. And each one of them has probably $20 worth of money, or has $20 sitting inside my account waiting for me to use. But I don't really use those chargers, so I can't pay as I go. I have to preload the money. That's $80 that I could have right now. All of that doesn't really apply here. I don't need a charger or an additional investment at home to have this vehicle. I don't have to plan my route. I can plan my route to see where I want to go, but I don't have to plan it out to see where there's chargers, because there's gas stations everywhere. and I don't have increased travel time with the Flex because after $100 and about 3 minutes of a full tank of gas, I'm good to go. Unlike an EV. And there's registration. This is $200. This is $55. This is $200 plus the $55 plate fee. Will these things prevent me from buying another new or used EV? No. It will not have iDrive in it, but I will buy another EV. Now, when I bought my i3, I wish I had known or been conscientiously aware of the third-party charging infrastructure. To me, that's the biggest friction point right now. Even these chargers right here, they're brand new, they're on, but there's no direction on how to use them. I went to use one the other day, I followed the directions, I plugged it into the i3, and then it said, wave your phone right here to activate. I waved my phone, and then Google Wallet comes up. Like, what the hell? What do I do? What do I need an app? How much does it cost? Nothing is displayed or conveyed to the end user, me. Makes for a frustrating experience. Let me know in the comments on what you would like to have known before you bought your EV, or what you would like to know before you buy an EV. Thank you for watching my YouTube channel. For more great content, click on these two playlists right here, and if you would like to subscribe, click here.